Hey, this is Jack, and this video is called The Number One Way to Stop Attracting Emotionally Unavailable Men. Hey, I'm Jack Butler, I'm a relationship coach. Welcome to my channel. If you're new or if you're returning, thanks for being here. I'd love to invite you to subscribe. I release at least 2 new videos each week on personal growth and relationships. So come on, let's do this. Just hit that subscribe button and then tap the bell notification so you hear of new videos as soon as they come out. All right, let's get into it. What is this number one way that you can stop attracting emotionally unavailable men? Well, just before I get into that, let me say, if that has been the pattern for you, I'm sorry. I know that that can be really difficult. I know that it can be heartbreaking, and I think I've got something for you. So stay to the end of this video, and I think it will make a difference in your life. That's my sincere hope. So what I want to focus on in this video is actually not him. I want to focus on you, because things that you do are within your control. Things that he does, it's hard for you to control, certainly. You might be able to influence or impact, but it can be a much lower leverage strategy than really going to work on something in you. So here's what I want to invite you to notice is, what is your relationship with emotionality, and what is your relationship with emotional availability? My sense from having coached a lot of women in this sort of territory is that most women who have the experience or complaint that men are emotionally unavailable themselves are actually overly emotional or overly emotionally available. Now, I don't mean that critically, I just mean that kind of observationally, right? That it might be that you have the habit of being over there with him, right? Wanting to connect with him emotionally, wanting to get him to open up with you emotionally, wanting him to be available to you. And it might be that you've never thought about, is it possible that I might actually be overly emotionally available to other people, and that I would benefit from coming into deeper emotional intimacy with myself, deeper emotional authenticity with myself. You know, sometimes we can run around being super kind, connected, and loving to other people, and there's actually a little bit of a hole in our own connection to ourselves, that we don't actually know ourselves well. There's not like a level of introspection, self-reflection, contact with self. It's more over there and about other people. So if you've never done this, I want to invite you to start to put much more attention on yourself. We sometimes talk about the 80-20 principle here, which is how can you keep 80% of your attention on yourself when you're in a conversation, when you're in connection with someone. And by the way, this doesn't just have to be romantic connection, this can be any connection. What's it like for you to be more interested in your own emotional experience and a little less interested in other people's emotional experience? Now, why is this useful? Because if you fill that cup up, right, if you become much more emotionally conversant and contactful with yourself, you will probably have less of a deficit need when it comes to receiving emotional connection from someone else. It may obviously still be incredibly important to you, but it might not occur to you as, why is he so unavailable to me? Right? Why can't he connect with me? It might be more like, I want him to connect with me. I want him to be available to me. But it's not so much of a wound that's getting activated, because you've actually tended to your own wound. You've tended to your own need first and looked to him second. Now you might say, well, actually, this isn't my pattern. I'm not overly emotionally available. I'm not super emotional. I'm not very emotionally reactive. So the second thing that I want to throw in here is, you might actually be the opposite. You might be attracting emotionally unavailable men because you're not emotionally available. And I know this because I've had lots of comments on previous videos that I've done on this topic where people have gone, oh my God, I've actually just realized it's me that's emotionally unavailable. Right? So if you are either overly or underly emotional or emotionally available, right? And by underly emotional, I mean that maybe you never reveal your experience, maybe you don't connect with yourself emotionally, maybe you don't connect with other people emotionally, maybe you're a little bit more stoic, what in the UK we would call, stiff upper lip. Maybe you're a bit more, I just deal, I get on with my life. Maybe you get busy, maybe you're super workaholic, or you're very career focused, or you're very focused on some projects in your life, and you don't really have time and space to sit down and slow down and feel. And if you never feel, you might therefore attract a guy where actually there doesn't need to be much feeling and emotion and love and connection in the relationship, right? Maybe you attract Mr. Stoic or Mr. I don't really need to show up here, because actually you don't really show up. And so it's sort of treats you well. Maybe there's a little bit of avoidance on both sides of the equation. Or maybe you don't really have any expectations of a relationship being grounded in love and connection. So you're not bringing it, and you don't really expect him to bring it, but then you keep attracting emotionally unavailable guys or narcissistic guys that aren't really available to be in relationship or connection with you. Right? Do you see what I'm saying here? That the outer may be a reflection of the inner. And again, none of this is about, my tolerating guys not being available in relationship or taking a stand for that. It's not about that. This is about saying, can we use relationship as a path of growth and development for ourselves? And can we use relationship as a path of wakefulness to notice that sometimes the problems that we think are over there might not only be over there, right? It may be that you're accurately seeing that, yeah, this guy isn't available to connect, but I'm curious, what's really going on for you? What's really coming up for you? Is it that you are sometimes so emotionally overtaken by your own emotional experience and that you're expecting a guy to be the same? And actually, the only thing that really balances out with you is a guy that is super logical, rational, and not emotionally available. Right? Because that's actually, if you think about the sort of laws of reciprocation, or that life is kind of looking to integrate and balance itself, the only thing that would balance you out is actually a guy that's underly emotional, right? That's not very emotional, not very emotionally available, because if two people were like that, it wouldn't really work in relationship, right? It would maybe be so unstable or so difficult to kind of make plans and have structure that actually you're attracting a guy that's maybe not that connected to his emotions, right? Or perhaps you've even had the inverse experience of you noticing, yeah, I am kind of stoic and underly emotional and I'm not very emotionally available, and I attract guys that just always want to like spill the beans and like tell me their life story, or like look to me like I'm the one that's kind of holding down the more grounded, rational presence in the relationship, and he looks to me to regulate his emotions, right? So you might have had this in the inverse as well. So, all of this is just grist to the mill of our own evolution and wakefulness, and noticing, anytime I have a complaint on him, let me just get a little curious if there's anything that is in here for me, right? Because otherwise, you're effectively the victim of emotionally unavailable men. And you might be running a complaint like, where are the emotionally available men? Or why are all men emotionally unavailable? And I'm here to tell you, I know plenty of emotionally available men. I know there are plenty of men who cherish their partners and show up for connection and show up for relationship. If that hasn't been your experience, I get it. And I'm sorry that hasn't been your experience. I want to invite you to not lose hope. And I want to invite you to, rather than be a victim of what you see as the emotionally unavailable guy, how can he be your savior? How can he be your call to wakefulness to notice, something's not quite adding up here. I'm either getting fixated or lured by a guy who I don't even realize is emotionally unavailable, and then when I realize I'm already hooked and it's kind of activating some trauma bonds that I have, or I'm not even paying attention to that vector of relationship. Maybe I'm so bound up with questions about my sex appeal or my worth, or will I ever not be lonely, that I'm actually settling in relationship for something that's never going to be nourishing to me. Or I have some expectations on a guy that are rooted in my own experience of my own emotionality, and I've never really gotten curious, is that the most healthy way of being with my own emotions? There's a distinction that I make for people, distinguishing emotional authenticity from emotional reactivity. Sometimes people's way of experiencing emotion is actually emotional reactivity. It's that, everything just touches me so personally that I react. I can never have a non-reactive experience. Everything is always pulling me or despairing me or shocking me. And a lot of that is actually reactivity. It's not that you're touching into the deeper layer, which might be I'm afraid, right? Or it might be I'm so afraid of not having something invested in meaning that I can't actually be with something in a more sober way, right? Sometimes there's a kind of reactivity that keeps us in a story about who we are, or that we're this kind of person or that kind of person, or men are these kind of people or that kind of people. And we're not realizing that it's actually reactivity. It's not the truth. It's like it's an habitual emotional response to things that, maybe I always get worked up about things, right? Or maybe I always get destabilized, or maybe I always get freaked out. And none of that is easy. If that's your experience, I can have compassion for that. And as I do that, I want to invite you to notice, I'm not the arbiter of this, you're the arbiter of this. Is there a way that it would actually serve you to be more emotionally authentic, which is in real time, you're in contact with and reveal your emotional experience, but you don't create some kind of story and narrative or self-image and identity out of it. You're actually able to be sad without becoming the sad one. You're able to experience rejection without being the rejected one, right? Can you see how these kind of habitual emotional experience can sort of form into an identity where you become the needy one, the responsible one, the rejected one, the unloved one, the kind one? None of that is actually the full enchilada, right? None of that is the realness, the fullness of who you are. So if you're noticing that, wow, oh yeah, if I've always been the needy one, that's going to determine who I get into a relationship with. If I'm always easily rejected and I'm the rejected one, I'm probably unconsciously looking for a rejector. Or if I've been so afraid of guys rejecting me, I'd probably just go for a super soft guy who's never actually going to challenge me and tell me his truth, right? So I just go for mergy guy, who thinks that you're the best thing since sliced bread. You're going to solve all his problems. He'll just merge into you and never actually have to have a boundary or an edge with you, right? Can you see, I don't know what of this is resonating with you or going on in your life. I'm just putting some things into your awareness. So rather than you being the victim of the emotionally unavailable guy, you can say, hey, is this a call to my own wakefulness? Is there something that's going on that's kind of out of balance here? And that if I look at that balance within myself, maybe there's a part of me that I've rejected, that I'm never in touch with my own anger, I'm never in touch with my disappointment, so therefore I attract it in relationship. Or maybe I've got a story that I don't deserve anything, and that's why I'm attracting emotionally unavailable guys, because I don't actually think I deserve a connection with a guy that can be emotionally literate, or that can connect with my heart, or that can love me in a real way. I actually just go for a guy that's kind of locked down, and therefore I don't have to risk too much because I can have a story that he's unavailable, and therefore I don't get what I want. It confirms to me that I'm a frustrated person when it comes to love, and therefore I just kind of keep all these beliefs intact that don't really serve me. Now, I'm not trying to be harsh in that. That may be the furthest thing for the truth. I'm just inviting you to say, what is the truth here? Normally there is a truth. Normally it's not just for no reason that you attract emotionally unavailable guys again and again. And it might be because of things in your past, and if you had it tough in the past, I'm sorry, that's not easy. And part of this might be actually dropping the story of the past so that you can free yourself and attract something new, a new possibility in relationship. Are you able to go on 1, 3, and 5 dates and accurately read something about a guy's level of emotional intelligence or literacy, right? Before you start to be connected to him or have a bond with him or a sexual with him or start to fantasize or imagine a future with him. Can you be sober like that? Sometimes if we're overly emotional, we actually lack that sobriety and objectivity that would most serve us. Right? So we're getting thrown around in the dating game. We're on this kind of emotional roller coaster. And what we need to cultivate is more equanimity, more sobriety, more humility, that we don't actually know what might be right for us in relationship, that we're willing to learn, that the thing that we did in the past hasn't been serving us. So we need to be open to something new. We might need to be more connected with our own emotional realness. We might need to actually know that there's a time to not let your emotions get the better of you. Not every emotion has to be explored and revealed in real time all the time. Sometimes you can take yourself down your own emotional rabbit holes. If that's your pattern, you probably might attract unavailable guys, because there's so much over emotionality that your own image is constellated around, right? That you're so complex and you're so nuanced in your emotions. I get it. I have complexity. But we don't have that as our only image, because if our identity is constellated around that, in order to balance that, it's like your soul is going to attract a guy who's more emotionally unavailable. Why? Because he has access to something that you don't. He has the ability to actually put his emotions aside and go to work, or get something happen, or show up every day for something regardless of how he feels about it. You might have zero access to that. That might be news to you. And that what emotionally unavailable guy is offering you is a way of being that if you had more access to it, if that was more integrated within you, you would no longer need to attract him, right? So this is now no longer I'm victim of emotionally unavailable men. It's like, I'm at least getting curious. Is there something here? Is there something that he is presenting to me in my life that I need for myself? Is he actually throwing down an opportunity for my own permission to learn, rather than just being the bringer and bearer of pain and bad news? Now, I'm not saying stay in relationship with an emotionally unavailable guy. I'm not saying tolerate really bad behavior from guys. I'm just saying so many things in life can be calls to our own realization, our own wakefulness, but we don't take the lesson if we're fixated in a story that he's wrong, he's the problem, and I don't know why there's so many of these guys in the world. Much better to get curious about my side of the fence. What's here for me? Why does life keep bringing me this? Make it a prayer. You might not have the answer. I'm not saying that you can just analyze these things and be boom, there's the answer. This might be a living prayer where you every night pray, hey, life, God, however you orient, show me. Let it be revealed. Let me know why this is happening, or let me know if there's something that I, in my own myopia, need to relax so that I can see more clearly, so that this isn't just a pattern that I'm beholden to, that I'm always attracted to this kind of guy. Or hey, maybe you might be always attracted to this kind of guy, but your learning is, I don't need to get into a relationship with them. And that's what life is going to show you. That you notice, wow, another emotionally unavailable guy that I'm really attracted to, and I know isn't the right person for me to be in relationship with. That is wakefulness, right? Rather than victimhood, which is, I have no power in this situation. I'm just following my attractions blindly. I'm getting hoodwinked into the same situation. These guys are just creating pain in my life. I want to put you a little bit more into your own authentic co-creation role with the universe, that you're not just a passive victim to these things, that there might be something here for you. Life rarely just keeps putting you on a path if there's not something to learn. Now, what you might have to learn could be absolutely painstakingly excruciating. So none of this is to say this might be easy. I certainly know a lot about the path of personal struggle and some of the most difficult but beautiful things you will learn through struggle. But let it be learned, right? Let you embrace your struggle in service of your own learning, rather than unconsciously or implicitly assuming victimhood because you have a complaint on what men are or what men do, rather than using it as a chance for you to wake up. And by the way, I also want to take a stand for all of us, myself included, as men, to wake up emotionally and otherwise. I'm all for that. But the problem that you have in front of you might not be out there. It might be something that you can catalyze internally. So if any of that's making sense, I'd love for you to like this video. Please subscribe to the channel. I would love to have you with us. And as always, questions and comments below this video. And if this video has particularly resonated with you, I want to invite you to watch my video, which is about knowing your own worth, because that's often kind of like a kissing cousin of this sort of issue. So I'll post this video here. Go watch that about knowing your own worth. And as always, I'm Jack, and thanks for being here.